Hello, everyone. This is Vibhor Bansal. I work with partnerships team at Eager Foundation. Today, we're here to, explore a newly launched Digit Health Campaign Management platform, which was piloted recently in Mozambique. And to have this session organized, we have Jojo Mehra and Murnal with us. Jojo is Chief Product Officer at Eager Foundation, and Murnal, as a product manager, works with him. Both of them has a hands-on experience working on this platform, not only since inception, but also having recently being frequently visited our pilot sites in Mozambique and got a on-ground experience how campaigns are managed and how this has been done using HCM. They will talk about more. I'll not steal the thunder, but hand it over to Jojo to take it forward from here. Couple of logistic requests. Since we are expecting more colleagues to join in, I would expect if you have any questions, you can raise hands and we will unmute you, will allow you to speak so that we can have an interactive session in between. I'll hand it over to Jojo to set the context and take it forward from here. Thank you.
Thanks, Vibhor. Very happy to be joining this evening and give everyone a walkthrough of Digit Health Campaign Management. We'll try and cover a few things over the next hour or so that we have, and so that we have time for the question answers as well. You can stop me at any point in time initially when we are going through the overview, etc. But once we're doing the demo, when Pranal is running through the demo, request you to hold your questions on that end, right? Because there's a particular flow that he follows, or just add your questions in chat. I'll try and respond to it in chat, or we can take it after the demo. If you can move on to the next screen, please. So I'll run you through what we'll be covering. We'll essentially do a breeze through of the approach and the overview that of Digit Health Campaign Management, or HCM. There is a 4-minute video that we'd like to showcase, and that shows you, it explains and articulates what HCM is, what it does, the problems that it solves, and how it's built out as a digital public infrastructure very well. So we'll show that. We can pause there in case that there are some questions we want to take at that stage. But immediately after that, we can run you through the roadmap and the exemplar in Mozambique, and following which Pranal can run through the demo. If that's good, let's start right away with the approach. So when we looked at starting out on thinking about what the problems are in health campaigns, and our view is to look at a wide area of wide geographies and not just in a very specific context. We broadly looked at two aspects of the problem. One is, what are the problems faced by different actors? And broadly, what you see over here is national agencies, health supervisors, and frontline workers. And we looked at what is the impact of these problems on the overall health campaigns. Right. So national agencies, for example, have very little visibility of progress and problems. They have very poor data to plan, to make decisions in real time. And that's the problems that they deal with. Health supervisors across the level, whether you're looking at on the program end, you're looking at the warehouse end, have inadequate information. They have limited resources and they're constantly firefighting. And frontline workers, again, have very limited training. Their payments are delayed. They're generally doing repetitive tasks, which essentially hampers the effectiveness of the entire campaign. Now, if you look at the impact of this on the entire health campaign management, health campaigns, what you end up with is low campaign effectiveness. There are logistical complexities. There's very limited visibility that is available to each actor across the entire value chain. What we saw was a siloed approach, and there is limited ownership of digital assets of data with national agencies. And this is what we notice as the two, at the two levels of the problems. One, faced by actors, and two, at a systemic level. So we can move on to the next slide, Nal. Here's a little bit of statistic, which we were quite surprised with, that every year about 50% of the campaigns do not complete. Either it's unknown, it's postponed, or it's assumed completed. And the reasons for it, when we kind of dug down, if we can move on to the next slide, was there is a duplicative approach that seems to be in place. A lot of the work that happens, whether you're looking at enumeration, whether you're looking at reusability of data, just, there's a lot of duplication that's happening across multiple systems. Data is really locked in silos. We saw that interoperability between systems was a challenge. In some cases, we did find integrations, but interoperability by and large was not the norm. It is very difficult to scale and sustain these initiatives, is again the feedback that we got, and doing our own research across different implementations. And what the countries told us was that there was very limited or almost no ownership of digital assets and data. If you can move on to the next slide. Yeah, if you can move on. So a new approach, and this is what we really saw what was happening, right? In a traditional approach, and this could be across multiple diseases. So what you see over here on the screen is, representative of, say, you have, a polio program, you have a malaria program, you have a measles program, so on and so forth. And you have different use cases within each of these programs, right? So there is, you need to do planning, there is registration, you need to look at inventory, you need to look at dashboards, you need to look at distribution, etc. And for each of these, there is a system that is created. And what ends up happening then is you look at integration of these different systems. And this is only for one program. You would go and repeat exactly the same thing for another program. And over a period of time, you have fragmented data that exists in different systems. Overall, it leads to a very poor experience and poor adoption of these systems. And once you have this point-to-point integration, it makes it very hard to scale these systems and bring about any change. What we're approaching and what we're proposing, and the approach that we followed in DIGIT HCM, is the platform approach, which is broadly divided, as you see, into these layers. So at the bottom layer, what you're looking at is this whole idea of having shared registries. So for example, once you have, a registry of users, when you have a registry of households, you have a registry of employees, the same registry is used by different programs. You don't have to go and create this data over and over again. There are some common services that are needed across most applications, across different programs, which can come together as solutions, which can come together as products. So for example, when you're doing planning, when you're doing registration, when you're doing field operations, these use some common services that are created on the platform. So once you go and create these common services, reusability becomes possible, right? So if you can move on to the next slide. What this really enables, and these are our three key pillars of the platform approach, is reusable modular building blocks, right? So you're reusing everything that has been created. Say, for example, if you're looking at notifications, you can look at notifications for during the registration process in an app that's used by frontline workers. You can also use the same code of notifications and the same service for your warehouse managers, right? You don't have to go and recreate this. The second part of it is on shared data registries. Like I mentioned, these data registries, your information about your users, your beneficiaries, your employees, your frontline workers, etc., serve as a single source of truth. You don't have to do this. You don't have to recreate this data again and again. And that is something that we kept in mind while building this out. And the third was to have interoperability baked into the design of the system using open specs and open APIs. If we can move on to the next slide. Very quickly, and I'm going to kind of breeze through this because I'm guessing this audience knows a lot about this, about what we've already done. But how did we arrive at this? We started off about a year ago where we observed with early field visit where we shadowed campaign workers in India. This was in Gorakhpur in India, where we looked at an MDA campaign, we looked at an IRS campaign, and we looked at a nutrition day, shadowing your campaign workers to see how these things run. On the next slide, please. We looked at understanding the real challenges on the ground. So the The team spent about, on an average, it's, I think by now it's more than this, about 75 days on the ground in multiple geographies, in Mozambique, in Benin, in Liberia, and in India. And this was largely shadowing people, working with different teams, showing them prototypes at a very, very early stage to get validation on whether what is being designed is usable or not. Because ultimately, where we started off on the first slide is whatever is getting created, whatever is getting built needs to be adopted by different users. And unless it solves their problems, it's very hard to solve systemic problems. We also validated this with users in their settings. We did this in Mozambique and we did this in Mumbai. And this was before the exemplar that just ran in Mozambique. The second phase of this is about to go live next week. If you can move on to the next slide. And of course, this is not something that eGov has done alone. We worked with a lot of partners. We've essentially collaborated with them to get their knowledge. And this is Missau in Mozambique. We worked a lot with Chai, extensively with Chai, and they've really helped us understand the program. They've helped us understand different sorts of campaigns. We worked extensively. We still continue to work extensively with CRS, with Malaria Consortium, with AMP, with the Global Fund on the supply chain team, and Go Goodbye Malaria for IRS. And this initiative is supported by Philanthropies, BMGF, and the Global Fund. You can move on to the next slide. So before we go into the demo, let's just take a short detour into having a look at the video. We're doing that now, right, Nana? After this? So let's have a look at the video, and we'll pause for a second after that before we go into the demo. You can start the video, Nunal.
Health campaigns are critical for delivering life-saving interventions across the world, especially in Africa, where routine health systems are still maturing. Health campaigns prevent millions of deaths and reduce trillions of dollars worth of disease burden. It takes months of planning, thousands of people, and billions of dollars to run campaigns. While digital tools are bringing about some efficiency, they are not doing enough. Coverage still remains uncertain, and cost effectiveness a major concern. Current solutions don't seem to support the entire campaign cycle. Operations are fragmented from setting up to delivery. Coordinating is hard, stockouts are frequent, and payments get delayed. Different campaigns use different solutions which often don't work together. And efforts like enumeration have to be repeated every year and in each campaign. This leaves the team stitching information across multiple silos, since real-time data is never available. As it stands, decision makers face an impossible choice. Digital tools are either free but not fit for purpose, or they do the job but cost a fortune, taking money away from inventory, wages, and actual delivery. These realities made it very clear that point solutions cannot do the job. Health campaigns needed a holistic digital transformation. This is how DIGIT HCM came into being. HCM stands for Health Campaign Management, a free, fit-for-purpose open-source product built as a digital public infrastructure to help countries transform health campaigns. Right from setting up campaigns to planning inventory and tracking delivery, it has all crucial components to simplify end-to-end operations and make decisions in real time. For national teams, it provides a digital headquarter to quickly set up and configure multiple campaigns, track progress with real-time data, and a centralized help desk to ensure that campaigns run without bottlenecks. Managers and supervisors get a co-pilot to run end-to-end operations. They can quickly track registrations and delivery, manage attendance and stocks, resolve complaints, make payments, and monitor progress, all from a single app. Frontline workers too have a digital partner, a mobile-first app that readily works offline, simplifies routine tasks with built-in data checks, easy navigation, and on-call support. It also ensures they get timely wages with smart payments. You see, when things are designed holistically, the entire system just works. And that's what DIGIT HCM does. It is not just another solution. It is built to be a strategic digital infra for public health, to enable high-speed transformations and new possibilities. Modular building blocks allow the same product to be reconfigured for different campaigns and diseases. And these building blocks can be reused to create new solutions in routine health, primary healthcare, and so on. Shared data registries provide a single source of truth from day one. All data of campaign staff, health facilities, and households can now be created once and leveraged across campaigns today and for routine healthcare tomorrow. Open APIs make it interoperable by default. No more worrying about siloed data or fragmentation. DIGIT HCM can work with any new or old system. As a true digital public infrastructure, it makes digital sovereignty possible, such that all data and digital product assets can reside within the country. And national agencies can decide the roadmap of health digitalization. Yes, that's why HCM is a game changer. It is open source. It is free. It is yours.
Great. So before we move on to the demo, we'll spend some time just looking at the roadmap and just for this audience, in the way that we're kind of building out DIGIT HCM, it's looking at what's the real need out there. So we started off with bed nets, it's moving on to SMC, it'll move on to IRS, etc. And that comes with a bunch of capabilities. So it's something that we're building out every quarter. Typically, our releases between version 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, etc., is anywhere between 3 to 6 months. The roadmap is live on health.digit.org. That's a URL we can kind of share in the chat. It's updated frequently, and it's a living roadmap. It evolves based on our understanding, based on the need, and based on what's going to be used in a geography first. Right. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Mrunal. He'll take you through first what's there right now in version 1.1, and that's the version that is live in Mozambique. What's coming up soon? That's by December in version 1.2, and subsequently what is planned for 1.3 and the capabilities that version will have. Following that, we'll go into a demo, and then we can open it up for question and answers. Mrunal, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Jojo. I hope I'm audible.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks for confirming. So thanks, Jojo, for setting the context and also the outline. I will try to keep it concise and crisp so that we can spend more time in the demo and have more time for Q&A. But before going down into the product demo and the versions in our roadmap, I thought it was important for us to realize what is the vision that we're having. So when we started a year ago, we did all the field visits. The vision that we started was to reduce fragmentation, to reduce siloed operations. There is a need for a product that provides end-to-end capability across all aspects of the health campaign value chain. So right from setting up a campaign, creating roles, creating users, creating data collection forms, to going into the integrated planning part, whereas it's micro planning or a macro planning. From there, plugging that into a help desk for managing complaints, looking at whether trainings are going on as per the plan, to remotely monitor and manage inventory, and also look at attendance and then lead that to payment. That's the streamlined ops part. And then finally, the crux of the product, right? The core interaction where you have to register households or individuals, depending on what type of campaign it is, provide a service, conduct regular ad hoc and scheduled supervisions, make it easy for the users to use the application, and then at the end, monitor all of this. So that's the whole value chain. This is what the product vision is geared towards. And obviously, while we're doing this, we will not leave sight of the core principles that Jojo spoke about and also were reiterated in the video, where we build it in such a way it is modular, configurable, reusable, and integratable. So right from the start, we know that DHIS2 is the system of choice in most countries. So we have on the roadmap, wherever possible, we will integrate with DHIS2, and all the other capabilities were already touched upon in the video. So with this vision in mind, we have broken down the product development into 3 versions. Version 1.1, which is currently available, and this is what went live in Mozambique a couple of weeks ago and will be used, actually is in use from today, since they've already started with training for the next block. So just to give, and this is all, we'll be looking at the product demo as well, so I won't spend a lot of time here. But the core interactions, like I mentioned, ability to register beneficiaries and record service deliveries, to support a door-to-door approach or a fixed post approach, both are designed for. Whether you do it in different points of time or whether you register and deliver at the same time, both modalities are supported. There is a stock module which has the ability to track the inflow and outflow of stocks, and then give warehouse managers visibility into what stock is currently available in the warehouse. For supervisors at all levels, whether it's a field supervisor or district or a provincial or national, the ability to set up supervision checklists as per the role, and then monitor whether the supervisors are filling the checklist, conducting those inspections, and then moving forward. Along with this, we also realized when we did the field test in Zambezia, in Mozambique, that there were a lot of complaints which were sent in various channels. So there was no single channel to effectively monitor and resolve complaints. So we immediately after the field test, we took a module that was already available in DIGIT called the Public Grievance Redressal, repositioned that as a help desk for a complaints module, and went live in Mozambique 2 weeks ago. So that's the complaint module. And finally, the dashboard with a lot of the indicators for making sure that are we on track. And as an addition, also some predictive capability that shows, okay, this was the plan. Are we deviating from the plan? If yes, what is the impact of that? And this is all covered in the demo. So I would demonstrate that to you just in a couple of minutes. And we are not going to stop here. There is much more in store in version 1.2, which is supposed to be released in December this year. We will be adding attendance module. So attendance is again a module on DIGIT. We will be positioning that for the campaign use case. Offline capability would be added to this as well. Along with this, what we realized was we needed to improve verification. Did the actual beneficiaries receive the bednets or not? So to keep that in mind, we are working with Global Fund supply chain team to make sure that we scan the 2D codes on the individual nets while delivering that to the households, so that we have the entire set of data points. We know who was the person who delivered, to whom it was delivered, what time. The GPS captured in the application tells us where, and also the barcode from the net tells us which resource was actually delivered to the household. Taking it upstream, we will also be introducing the bale scanning in warehouses, following the GS1 standards, again, with help from the Global Fund supply chain team. This will also be released in December. Right now, to set up campaigns, it is fairly technical. You need some tech expertise. So to make sure that countries and programs are able to set this up on their own, there is a separate thread that we are working on, which is called as a workbench. So with a workbench, with a simple, easy, intuitive UI, you can create users, all the things, the quick setup part that I spoke about. It'll be just like a matter of clicks and you're done. And finally, we are extending the stock management or the inventory tracking capability beyond the warehouse. And that is what we call as a last mile delivery. Once the stocks leave the warehouse until they reach the beneficiary's household, we'll be tracking that part as well. So that's version 1.2 for you. And then we have a couple of items for April next year, wherein we are more focused on, now that we have the core capabilities in place, we are going to extend the capabilities to look at how can data that is collected in DIGIT be of more use. So GIS has turned out to be a very important point, which we have already included. So we have some prototypes where we have initial designs ready on how this data can help take more near real-time decisions. So that's GIS dashboards. We are also planning to support the microplanning activity with a microplanning module. And then finally, we have attendance in version 1.2. In 1.3, using the proof of work captured through the attendance module, we are planning to have a digital payment or a smart payment module that we are also working on. So that's the whole scope. And like Jojo said, this is not a concrete list. Based on feedback from the ground, feedback from our partners, this roadmap is evolved based on priorities. Things may move across releases, and the final list is available on health.digit. We'll be posting the link in chat as well. So the same view on a single slide. This is the exact slide that's available on our Gitbook site as well. So I won't spend a lot of time here, and I will move on to the demo. So let me quickly open my mobile application.
While Mrinal is doing that, the demo that he's giving right now for version 1.1 is something that's already built out, something that's used. For version 1.2 and 1.3, the key capabilities, for version 1.2, I think we'll show it on a prototype, Mrinal.
If we have time, we'll do that, Jojo.
Okay. And on 1.3, can we give them a glimpse of how we're thinking about GIS, etc.?
Yeah, that we can do.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Can someone confirm if my mobile screen is visible?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Thank you. So this is the DIGIT HCM mobile application. Obviously, there is a web portal as well, and I'll go there in a couple of minutes. So at the outset, multi-language support. So whether it's French or Portuguese, it's very easy to configure any language. And with Workbench, a non-technical user would also be able to use it. For today's demonstration, I'll be using English as the language of choice. So let me quickly log in here. Okay. That's the password. That's correct. And yes, so before I move on, the other interesting bit is, right, Jojo mentioned that, we saw there were different applications for different campaigns, even within the same program. So to solve that problem, what we have done is, the way DIGIT is architected is that everything runs as a project. Now, each project can have a different workflow, can have different capabilities, modules, can have different data that is collected depending on what type of campaign it is. So in the demo today, I have two campaigns configured. One is a LLIN campaign. Nairobi, I am using my demo application from the AMP conference. So the LLIN campaign in Nairobi, which is a household-based campaign where bed nets are delivered. The second campaign on the screen is an MDA campaign for lymphatic filariasis, which is the NTD MDA campaign for individuals. So both have different flows, different data requirements, and within the same application, both can coexist and run parallelly or at separate points of time without having to reinstall and reinitialize the application. So I'll go ahead with the bednet flow. So I'm clicking on LLI Nairobi. I select the boundary where I would be working today. So just Kavina 1 is the village. And this is my home screen. So right now I've registered as a distributor. So for those who are not aware, a distributor is a role who's responsible for going and registering individuals, eligible individuals or households, and then delivering the service or the product. In this case, being bednet. So I'll talk about all the modules as and when we go, but the core interaction again for the distributor is to register beneficiaries. So I click on the beneficiaries button, just some metrics that tell me, have I worked today? How many households I've registered? How many bednets I've delivered? Like you say, it's 0. So let me start with it. So to keep data privacy and duplication in check, what we have done is the user has to search for a household. If the match is not found, only then create a new one. So in this case, John is not registered previously, so I would be registering a new household. Again, just a blanket statement, all the fields that you see on the screen or any screen are configurable. So depending on the use case, you can add, remove, make it mandatory or optional through configuration. So in Mozambique, there are only 2 fields on this page. And for Liberia, maybe we have a different use case, it can be handled. I click on next. One important point on the household location screen, the application in the backend is automatically collecting the latitude, the longitude, and also the accuracy of the lat and long, so that every transaction created has a lat long coordinate attached to it, which we'll see on a lat long map on the dashboard in a few minutes. I click on next. Date of registration is today's. Let's say there are 4 members living in the household. I click on next. Now, one important user experience aspect that we have really kept in mind is our users are on the field working with the application. So we wanted to minimize the number of clicks. So as you can see, John was something that had already entered in the search screen. I don't have to type John again. If there is an ID, I can select an ID. If not, I can default it and move forward. I can select the age or date of birth. So in this case, let's say John is 35 years of age. Filling one will automatically populate the other. I can fill the gender. Mobile number is optional. Also, all the fields have a validation in place. So if the mobile number requires 10 digits and you try to submit with 9, the application will stop you from proceeding. So data completeness and validity are kept in check. I click on submit, and that's done. So now I can see one household has been registered but not yet visited. So depending on whether you are doing a fixed post campaign or a door-to-door campaign, this module can be stitched accordingly. In this case, I click on open. If I want to add more members to the household and do a full-fledged enumeration, clicking on the add button member will help me do that. If not, I can simply click on deliver intervention and go to the delivery flow. In this case, just some data attributes to reconfirm if it is the right John that I am visiting. The member count is 4, and the application has a decision support for the distributor here, in which case we have configured a formula of 1 bednet for 1.8 members in the household. So that effectively means if there are 4 members, the application is suggesting that you deliver 2 bednets. The application is also designed in such a way that you can make sure that bednets of a particular grade and quality are sent to a particular location, and depending on that assignment, the options come down here. In this case, I select bednet grade 1. Just an example, actual quantity delivered is 2. In case I don't have sufficient nets, I can click on delivery comment, mark as insufficient resources. So again, all the values in drop downs are configurable. You can decide what values you want to display in the drop down. I select insufficient resources. I click submit, and now this is something that again came out of the field test, that delivering the bednet or the intervention is one thing, but are our teams spending enough time to educate the households or bring about a social behavioral change while they are having this touch point? So in Mozambique, and that is my experience, I saw that the registrar had to deliver 6 SBCC messages, and it was very difficult for them to remember all the 6 and in that order. So to make it simple, a simple checklist to remind, a mental cue to remind them that, okay, they have to talk about symptoms of malaria, the correct use of nets, how to dispose of old bed nets, and this is again configurable. So I'm going to select yes and move on. I have reviewed the data and that's done. So that's the registration and delivery flow. And now you can see that John has, I visited this household. Yeah, it's only one person who I've enumerated, 1 bednet delivered, and that's it. I can go on and do the next as well. The other UX part is that if we saw a lot of churn in the campaign stuff, people who were trained did not turn up, last minute trainings had to be put in place. So again, a help button on all pages will tell you what each of these buttons do. So, and that's exactly what I'm going to use to talk about the other modules as well. So I've already spoken about the beneficiaries module. File complaint is if I'm having a grievance for myself or somebody else, I can file a complaint. In the interest of time, I will skip this module, and if anybody wants to have a deeper dive, we can connect separately. The sync data is again an important point because the application is geared as an offline first application. Syncing data frequently is important, and we do have an auto sync. Every 5 minutes, the application will check, is there internet? Is the internet strong enough to transmit data, and then automatically sync the data? If for some reason the auto sync has not yet been triggered, I can simply click on sync data and in the 5-minute interval, make sure the data is gone. If I am stuck somewhere, I want to call the supervisors. Simply by clicking on call supervisors, I can do that. And the last 2 buttons are just for a test environment. It is not for the user's use. So let me sync the data. Sync is in progress. As you can see, the number of transactions on the screen are gradually decreasing. So, and yeah, that's done. So those were the 2 flows I had planned for the demo, which is registration and delivery. Depending on the time, we can have more flows as well. And now, this was the data that was collected on the field on the go. And now I would want to move on to the dashboards, where the program managers, the supervisors are actually reviewing this data in their daily meetings and taking proactive decisions. So again, this is the web application or the web app for the DIGIT HCM. As you can see, there is a complaints module. All the complaints registered to the mobile application are in the inbox, and you can actually pick up a complaint, resolve it, and address accordingly. There's also a workflow component. You can choose whom to assign the complaint to, and so on and so forth. There is a user management module. If in case there are new users who are created midway, you can create them through a GUI, and it's easy to do that. The most important part here is dashboards, and this is where the rubber hits the road. So to make sure that you don't need a lot of training on how to use a dashboard, so there is no external expert required, we have tried to make this a self-starter. So the about pages, the FAQs, the calculations are all help material where you can read and understand what the dashboard does, how each indicator is calculated, and depending on questions that we get in forums like this, we constantly refine our FAQs so that those questions are already addressed. So I will move on to the LLIN dashboard that, and this is a UAT dashboard, has the data that we are generating in test and not the actual one. So as you can see, today I have registered John. So I have 1 household visited. There were 2 members in the household, and I distributed 1 bednet. So these are my stats today, and these are my cumulative stats. So the dashboard here serves 2 purposes. Point number 1, it shows the data that is captured. Point number 2, it also gives you actionable insights that you can just read and action upon. And I will talk about that in just a minute. So this is the whole dashboard at a national level. So the other feature I really like about our dashboards is that right from a national level, you can drill down to a village level and see data at all those levels in a disaggregated manner. So some chloropeth maps to just give me a view about how the campaigns are running. And now here, like I mentioned, there were 2 campaigns set up in a mobile application. One was an LLIN campaign, the other was an MDA campaign. Depending on the province and the type of program, multiple campaigns would be visible in this table here. Right now, we just have 1 campaign active, which is the Nampula Bednet campaign. So I'm going to click on View Dashboard. You go to Cumulative, and yes. So a couple of general pointers here. So at any point of time, you can switch into the language of your choice. You can also download the whole dashboard, or you can share it via WhatsApp, email, or PDF with somebody. To view data across, to slice it by time range, you can have a cumulative view, you can have a today only view, or you can have a custom date range as well, if you want to view data only for a specific period of time. The data sync card here is a daily indicator, and this was very helpful in the Mozambique campaign as well. It basically tells me in the last X hour period, for Mozambique it was 7, in the last 7 hours, how many users have synced their devices at least once. So that tells me all the data that I see on the dashboard is basically for the users who have synced, but there are more users who are still out there, and we haven't yet received data for them, and that basically prompts me to go and follow up with the field supervisors to get the teams to sync data. So today it's only me who has created the data, so it's going to be a 0.13 sync rate. It's very low. So again, at a national level, at a provincial level in Nampula, giving me, I want to look at all the key performance indicators. How many households have I registered? What is the population covered? What are the bed nets distributed? On the left-hand side, it is what you have done today. What is cumulative? On the right-hand side is what you have done today. And this is the overall coverage for households, population, and bed nets. Similarly, if, like I mentioned, there were some insufficient resources, what were the edge cases who did not follow the actual flow? You can have a look at that as well. And upon clicking on insufficient resources, it automatically tells you by boundary how many such cases were there, and you can actually drill down to the lowest level of the hierarchy. Similarly, if I have complaints, I can get an overview of complaints, and there is also a complaint-specific dashboard that drills down deeper into the whole complaints part. Again, coverage by boundary for all the districts is already here. Some districts have not started, some are way ahead. Similarly for inventory. Now, other than custom reports where it shows what is the actual inventory that warehouses have, the dashboard also tells us how many number of days will the inventory last. So this is basically what we had planned for, how many have we consumed, how many days are remaining in the campaign. So can the balance stock on hand cover the remaining campaign or not? So it says MoMA has 4 days of inventory left, and that's a predictive graph. I'll try to keep this quick and then move on to the next part. Whereas, so we have households visited, population covered. I already spoke about that. Right now, it is showing you in percentages. If you want to see absolute numbers, you can simply toggle here and have those numbers as well. If you want to send this as an image or via WhatsApp or email, you can do that as well. And that is applicable for all the indicators here. You can click on a particular bar graph. So right now I'm looking at all the administrative posts in Murupula. I drill down, I can drill down right from the province to a district. And now I'm looking at all the villages in the Murupula Sede locality. And I'm looking at the numbers there, and the same is available for all the graphs here. If you remember, I spoke about the latitude and longitude being captured automatically by the system, and that is displayed on this on the shapefile here. So this basically tells me my team has been working a lot here, and this is the area that was supposed to be covered today but has not been covered today. On the left-hand side, you have a chloropleth map that tells you on a scale of 0 to 100 how are my districts doing. And this was also very important visualization that was used previously. So right now everything is in red because we haven't really looked at it. Again, you can look at household numbers, population numbers, bed net numbers, and you can toggle accordingly.
Runal,
And yeah, Jojo.
Just while you're on this, I think it'll be good to highlight how having this real-time data enables program teams to catch any anomaly or to catch any deviation from an SOP that's been put in place and what we experienced in Mozambique. I think that'll be a good example to share at this stage.
Yeah, okay. So let me come down to okay. So one example that comes to mind on this is on day 2 of the campaign in Mozambique, we were looking at the households visited graph, and we realized that one particular district was not was at a very low coverage, and it was one of the most densely populated districts in the block. And looking at the low coverage, it immediately got everyone's attention, and they actually sent teams down to the district to see what had actually gone wrong. So just by looking at the plan data and real-time data, on day one, we had around 98% sync rate. And we realized that, okay, if 98% of the people have synced and data is not as per our expectation, there's something wrong. And they immediately dispatched a team there, and we realized that, okay, there were some logistical issues due to which the campaign coverage was low. So that was one point. The other point was on the supervision dashboard. So like I mentioned, we have a supervision module where the program has mandated the supervisors to conduct planned inspections and then fill a checklist that captures their observation. What we realized was a couple of checklists were not filled. That either meant the supervisor did not actually record it in the digital application or did not actually conduct the checklist. So the provincial supervisors were able to follow up with the district supervisors, asking them whether they had actually conducted a supervision or not. And by the end of the day, a supervision that could have been missed was completed, and that is how real-time data helped. So these are two examples that come to mind. The other important graph, and this is actually predictive in nature, is the plan versus actual progression. So as per the micro plan, you're supposed to have a very linear graph. Every day you have a set target that has to be achieved, and if you follow that target, you're supposed to end your campaign by the 3rd of July. Please forgive me, this graph is a bit distorted because we've been using the same environment for testing since 27th June. But what it essentially means is that the campaign was supposed to start on 27th June, end on 3rd of July. But actually the campaign started on 30th of June and did not follow the same planned target approach. And because it is following the orange line here, the campaign would actually end on 25th of September. So this is what the delay looks like. On the Mozambique production dashboard, this graph is much more realistic. So that basically told them, okay, because a particular district was behind time, they knew for a fact that they had to extend the campaign by 1 day. They extended the campaign by 1 day. They realized, the plan versus projection is still not parallel. We are again going to overlap. So they sent more teams and extended it for another day only in that district, so that they could get the prediction line as close as possible to the planned line. So this is a graph that predicted how the campaign would run based on how the campaign is running today. Again, all the metrics that I spoke about, all the individual bar graphs or the pie chart are there in a tabular form. It can be downloaded as a CSV, and you can actually do much more independent analysis on a CSV file. You can also drill down in the graph and have all these indicators in a single frame of reference. So yeah, and this is available on all the charts. Similarly, we have a complaints. I won't spend a lot of time here, just keeping a time check. We have some for inventory. Again, this was a very important chart. I already spoke about the indicator that tells me how many days will my inventory last, depending on my planned and actual consumption. The other indicator here is, in every boundary, what is the stock that I have available and what is required. So anywhere I see the available stock or the blue graph is higher than the orange graph, it means I have a surplus of inventory here. And it is very likely that because I require more stock in the district of Nampula and I don't have enough available, I'm going to run into a potential stock out situation. So you can actually move your stock around. So this was the other indicator that was helpful. Again, every district has, every transaction in the mobile application captures the lat long. So it can actually show you in this district of Murupula, there are 5 warehouses, the total stock in hand, what was received, what was dispatched. It will last for 5 days and it is sufficient. So again, the same indicator. I won't talk about the reports. I think I already spoke about the supervision while we were discussing this. So yeah, that's the dashboard. I'll quickly look at the time. I think we have 6 more minutes. So Jojo, instead of going into the version 2 prototypes, I'm thinking that we can directly go into the GIS based prototypes.
Makes sense. Let's do that.
Okay. So this is something that is still in the design phase, and we are still working with our partners to actually refine this. And this is something that will be ready by April, as I mentioned earlier. It's a heavy file, so it will take a couple of seconds to load. But what it essentially, I'm lucky today, so it's already there. So the existing dashboard that you just saw has data in 2D and I would say static visualizations, a bar graph or a pie chart or a line graph. What we are looking at is how do we take this data and make it more useful. So the same dashboard, but on the supervision page, instead of just looking at graphs, there is a GIS component added to the dashboard where it shows the same information, coverage on chloropleth maps. I can actually filter it by provinces or districts, and it will tell me a couple of indicators on the side. It also tells me if I click on a particular district, I can look at the household view. So I can also look at what was the total number of nets delivered, nets rejected, warnings raised. Warnings are essentially something did not go right here. I want to see what that was. I can look at the settlement view. So these are again lat longs, and I don't know whether you are able to see the difference in, so this is basically missed settlements, visited, and also dots where campaign has not yet started. If I click on the settlement view, it tells me, okay, this is where all the warnings were raised. And if I click on a warning, it tells me there was a team that visited on this particular day. They required, they were supposed to give 2 nets. That is what the application suggested, but they actually gave 4, and they did not give me any comment to know. I also spoke about having QR code, BedNet QR codes linked to a service delivery data. So if I click on QR code numbers, there's a typo, I'm sorry for that. It would tell me which were the nets as per the GS1 compliant, what was the batch number, what was the lot number, what was the serial number of the nets that were given here. And the warning raised was extra nets delivered, who was the supervisor, what was the household that the net was given to. So this is a settlement view, and depending on the severity of the warning, I can ignore it or take an action on it. Again, coverage status is the same map that we saw, but with more features. And finally, percentage coverage, again, the same map that you saw, but with some more capabilities. Again, you can have this as a street map topography. So you can also have this as a building footprint. If you take a satellite map, you will see where is the actual household and is the dot on the household or not. So all that is in the pipeline and would be ready in the next couple of quarters. So this is just a view of what is coming in version 3. We have a lot more. So the teams are currently working on actually building it out. There is a lot of POCs going on, and there's a whole lot of work, and we'll keep you posted as and when we complete something. So with that, I think I would hand it back to Jojo.
Thanks, Mrinal. All right. We can actually break for any good question answers now. So you can raise your hand or just unmute yourself and have a conversation. Okay. If there are no questions, what I'll do is I'll just give you a thought on how we're looking at, when we say the digital transformation, what we see DIGIT HCM enable, right? If you can move on to the next slide, Manal. Right. So when we said, let's look at reimagining health campaigns, right? We looked at 3 key things. One, the ability for program teams, and these are people who are running health campaigns, to respond quickly. They should be able to redesign their execution, because right now what we saw in a lot of cases is the digital product is mirroring a process that is being put in place in an era where there was no digital tool, right? So over a period of time, you should be able to actually go and redesign your execution, and that's where you know, a digital system really helps. And finally, you should be able to coordinate at scale, and that's what this is about. If you can move on to the next slide. In terms of the first one, we set ourselves a target of saying teams should be able to set up campaigns in 3 days. And I think this was largely done in the case of Mozambique. I'm not sure whether it was 3 or 4 days, but how much was this, Mrinal, if you have the actual number on this, on setting up campaigns?
It was in the same ballpark, Jojo. It was 3 or 4 days. There were a lot of changes, so I think 4 days would be a good number to go with.
Okay. And then the next thing was, we said, we started off with saying that you should be able to use the same system to run hundreds of campaigns simultaneously. This is there in the design of the system itself, right? So you can do that even now. What we hope is to build out, we hope to be able to see this being in use in multiple campaigns simultaneously. If you can move on to the next slide. And then we set ourselves, an ambitious target of saying, when field teams, when frontline workers are actually there on the field, they should be able to have this conversation with beneficiaries and register them in a minute, right? So they should actually aid what they are doing and not really add on to the workload. We set ourselves saying that, okay, they should be able to do this in under a minute. So this effectively means going up to a household, asking, what your name is, getting the details, clarifying it, typing it out, getting all the details about the beneficiary, all of that in under a minute. And then being able to go and record the actual delivery of a bed net in 15 seconds. And totally, I think we were able to do it in, frontline workers were able to use the app to do this in under a minute overall. And what we also understood was that the time it would take them, and this is something that we got from the field teams, that it would generally take people between 10 and 15 minutes from start to the end. And this includes walking up to the household, getting the beneficiary details, doing, handing over the bed net, telling them about the SBCC communication, giving a demo of how to use the bed net, was generally about a 10 to 15 minute process. The feedback that we got, from this pilot, from this version of the exemplar, was that they were able to do it in 8 to 10 minutes, right? So that's already an improvement, and we're hoping that this actually helps them reduce their repetitive tasks and aids them in the delivery of their work, right? And this is I'm talking only about the registrar and the distributor, right? We still need to see this for the warehouse manager and the other people in the value chain. So that's what I wanted to end with. Real-time dashboards, I think we've already kind of spoken about. We really did see this in play, and the value that this brings in to the program teams when you have data like this. We saw this kind of play out in real time in the program as well. So I'll stop with that. If there are any questions, happy to kind of take them here. You can always kind of write to us. Mr. Bohr has given his email ID on chat. You can reach out to Mrinal, you can reach out to me, you can drop in a question on digit.org. There are multiple forums. We'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, feedback. All of it is welcome. Vibhor, over to you.
Thank you, Jojo. Thank you, Mrinal, for this session. And I hope the colleagues who have joined the session has got what they wanted to look at. As I mentioned, you can always reach out to your point of contacts. If you have already, or you can write to me at vibhor.bansal@egov.org.in, and we're happy to loop in respective stakeholders to take these conversations forward. for today, this is it, and we'll see you in next session or in next meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time and patience.
Thanks all. Bye. Thanks, Vibhor.
Thank you.